with you because you do something that I am not good at. You're a pro at it, and I know basically nothing about it. Poker. Lydia, first, how's your day going?
Oh, it's going great. Thanks. I just got back in town.
So, what were you doing out of town? I'm fascinated to know.
I went just for a couple of days, went to a casino. Uh, they don't have casinos in Texas. So I went to a casino for a couple of days to play in 2 days of tournaments. So one day I played in a noon tournament, then a 6 o'clock tournament. Those are fairly small. And the next day I played in a large tournament and then came on home.
Okay, so Texas doesn't have any Indian casinos, nothing like that.
That's right. The only way you can play poker in Texas legally is in a card house. And those you are a private club, so you have to pay either a daily membership or a monthly membership or yearly or something like that. Usually it's like $10 a day or $30 a month, and you can play that way.
So, before we get deep into this poker conversation, because I do want to talk about it, what was your childhood like?
Well, I was an Air Force brat, so I lived all over the world. I was the third of six children. Should say I am the third of six children. My parents are still alive, and all my siblings are still alive. So I came from a large family, moved around a lot, traveled a lot. I was very much an ugly duckling. Um, in high school, for example, I had frizzy hair like Rosanna Dana, glasses, braces, bad acne. Um, the teen years were not fun for me, but that's okay. You don't want to peak when you're 16.
No, and I'm gonna be that guy that tries to top you at this point. So when I was in high school, I had a bad underbite. So I would have the bad underbite. So
Me
to
too.
you
Yeah.
do so to combat that, they had to put a crank in my mouth, and I would crank, right. So
Hmm.
then I got this big gap between my two front teeth, which was humiliating. So then I had to have my wisdom teeth pulled so they could do surgery to move my jaw back and take bone out of my hip to put up there.
Oh my God.
So I'm saying all this to get to this. So I had all that done. My 16th birthday came around. I was born in August. So I couldn't enjoy the 16th party. My dad was grilling burgers while I was slurping beefaroni. Then my school pictures, Lydia.
Oh,
I look like a chipmunk. So I don't know if
yeah.
that tops you, but I was an ugly duckling also. So we can bond on the ugly ducklings
Yeah.
on this. And there's no way you were ugly. There's not a way you were
Oh,
ugly. I
yeah.
promise you that. You weren't ugly.
Yeah.
Nah, you weren't. So when you're growing up, when do you get the urge to want to start playing poker? Were you always a gambler? Like, how's that work?
Well, when I was 12, of course, you have to realize I grew up in the days where you went outside in the morning and you didn't come home till the street lights came on. And if you were thirsty, you drank out of the garden hose and that sort of thing. You know, you could come home for lunch and there'd be sandwiches sitting, on the counter or something. And when I was 12, an uncle taught me, a salty old guy from the Navy, was visiting relatives in Indiana, and he taught me to play poker, and we would play with pennies. And he said, "Little girl, you never know when you might have to earn your living another way." So I learned to play poker, and it wasn't Texas Hold'em at that time. It was just playing poker. But that's how I learned to play.
So for me, a novice who's never played poker, how would I get started? I'm 40, almost 46 years old. So how would I get started in this at my age? I feel like I'm behind the curve. My son is
No,
12.
no,
He comes
you're a
home. He's
perfect
like, I
age.
can play poker. Really, I'm the perfect age.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You could catch up really quickly. Um, there are amateur poker leagues all over the country. So I would first in your area look for amateur poker leagues. And
Okay.
those are typically, they have them on a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday. It's usually, or maybe a Saturday afternoon. They're held in maybe sports bars or some of the restaurants, your Applebee's kind of place. I've been in one that was in a Hilton Hotel restaurant, those kind of places. And that's where I really started learning to play Texas Hold'em. And typically it's free, so you're not paying anything. But if you buy food or drinks, you get extra chips. And that's how the establishment makes money on a slow night or a slow afternoon or something. So Monday night, this place has a free poker. Tuesday night, that place has got it. Wednesday afternoon, this place has got it. And I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There are at least a dozen every night in the area of amateur poker leagues playing. And that's how you can learn without spending a lot of money. And you can learn live that way. Otherwise, you can learn to play online. But I don't like playing online as much. One is because I don't trust the sites. I'm worried, that they're robots, they're AI I'm playing against. People are using that sort of thing. And it's, I think, good to learn in person. You learn a lot more about how people really act at the poker table and their thinking. So join an amateur poker league, or you don't even have to join, really. Go to some amateur poker leagues and start playing that way. And then if you start entering tournaments, and I play tournaments, so I play Texas Hold'em tournaments, and you can enter tournaments that are $40, or you can enter them that are $1,000. So you probably want to start at the lower level.
My wife would kill me if I paid $1,000 to enter a poker tournament.
Yeah. Well, you could start at the lower level. I played in a tournament on Wednesday that the buy-in was $80. So that was a pretty, that's low stakes poker. And there were about less than 100 people in it.
Less than 100. So you have a good shot at winning this, right?
Well, at that point, you got 1 in 100, right? But let's say there were 30 people in it. You got a 130, 1/3 odds. And so I played in the noon one, finished about 10th. And then I played in the 6 o'clock one in the evening, and I placed first. And I won over $1,000. So,
wow.
That's not bad for $80 buy-in.
Okay, so do you go to Vegas too and do it, or do you stick around
They pretty much stay in Texas and Oklahoma. They also have gambling in New Mexico and Louisiana. I occasionally go to Vegas, but not more than once a year. And one of the things you should keep in mind, though, because people can get discouraged, is the best poker players in the world, like professional players, really good players, will finish in the money about 15 to 20% of the time. So that's a lot of losing. Like when I came in 10th, I did not finish in the money. So that's a lot of losing. You got to get used to that. Now they'll actually win about 3% of the time. So 97% of the time, they didn't come in first place, even though they're a fantastic poker player. But one of the things to keep in mind is you don't have to win that much. If you win, like, for example, the World Series of Poker, which to me is the most expensive poker tournament an average poker player could go join, is $10,000 to play.
Wow.
First place, $10,000. First place is $19 million.
Okay, that's a good buy. That's a good
payout. Is in the millions. I mean, it's on up there. So if you're the best poker player in the world, you don't have to win more than 3% of the time. Because let's say you're entering a tournament that's $100 and you enter 10 of them a year. That's $10,000 a year. And the payout for the $100 tournament is, let's say it's $10,000. You win 3%, that's $30,000 you win for your $10,000 investment. You don't need to win more than 3% of the time. Now, if you're a high stakes poker player, you're not entering a $100 tournament, you're entering a $10,000 tournament. So your 3 times your money is going to be, much larger. Or I shouldn't say 3 times your money, a lot more, for $100 invest. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay, so you're winning 3%. Have you wanted to play in the World Series of Poker? I haven't
wanted to play in it bad enough to spend $10,000.
That's a lot.
Actually, it starts next week.
Oh.
There's the World Poker Tour and the World Series of Poker. Those are the 2 big games that people play in. And they have, like, for example, in Oklahoma, the World Series of Poker comes to a casino there twice a year. So I'll go there twice a year to play in their events. And they'll be there for 2 or 3 weeks. And every day they'll have different tournaments. And the WPT, the World Poker Tour, does the same thing. Twice a year they go to that casino and they host events. They're there for a couple weeks, and I'll go up there and play in some of those.
So you're basically at the point where you make your living just playing poker at this point, right? Is that
Well,
or
yeah, I'm officially retired, but I've had a regular full-time job, and my husband still works full-time, so
okay?
I'm not dependent on my poker income.
Yeah, you're not feeding yourself from your poker income.
Right.
Yeah, I get that. So when we're playing poker, are you a sunglass wearer or do you just let people see your eyes?
I don't wear sunglasses, but I've been thinking about it.
Really?
I have. The reason you're wearing sunglasses is so that people don't see you looking at them. Because at the poker table, I'm watching as the betting goes around the table, and I'm seeing how you act, what you do. I'm watching how often you bet and what kind of player you are. Are you a tight player? Are you a loose player? Are you aggressive? But I'm also seeing, how do you hold your hands? What kind of face you look? Do you swallow? Do you look nervous? Are you more tense? Depending on your hand, I'm trying to get tells on you. And if you're wearing sunglasses, people can't see your eyes, and so they don't get as many tells maybe from your eyes, but also you don't see me looking at you. You don't see me looking around the table. It's what's going on.
How quickly can you pick a tail up on someone?
Some people, I can pick them up really quickly. Other people, I can't figure them out. And some people give false tells too. Especially if they see you looking at them, they'll act differently. And I do that frequently. I'll change up how I'm holding my hands or my arms every hour or every half hour. So I'll sit there with my hands kind of folded in front of me, or I'll sit with my arms crossed, or I might sit like this, and I'll change it up, not based on what I'm holding.
Okay, so I feel like this would be a boss move. I know this has probably happened in your life. Have you won a lot of money with a bad hand because you bluffed them? And you're like, is that not a good, that's probably the best feeling, right? When you win and you couldn't have won if they got you, right?
Yes. And that's fun. That's one of the reasons poker's entertaining. Sure, I've won some nice hands bluffing, and I've lost some hands bluffing, but it's fun. And being a woman at the poker table is a little bit different because about 95% of poker players are men. And so I take advantage of being a woman at the poker table. And if you're a woman and you're aggressive, I'm typically a tight and aggressive player, and it can kind of intimidate people, especially in the beginning. It will intimidate a lot of men. And the thing in Texas Hold'em tournaments is, let's say you start with 100 people. As people lose, they consolidate the tables. So new people are sitting down with you, or you're getting moved to sit at other tables. So you're typically not at the same table with the same people for the entire tournament. So that gives you an opportunity to kind of start over again with people.
I feel like poker is more reading body language and less the cards. It is the cards, but I feel like you could win a lot by just watching. I could just watch you if I'm a pro. And then I also want to know, why do women not want to play poker? Why is it 95% men? Women like games too. I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't know why women don't as much. Most of the games are in the evening maybe. And I think it's just the history of the game. It used to be in, smoky back rooms, with a bunch of cowboy kind of things. And I think it was just the way the game traditionally started. It didn't start as some ladies' tea playing bridge sort of thing. So I think that's just kind of the history of how it started. I think more and more women are starting to play. I really feel like that statistic is changing.
That's you would think more women would want to get into the casinos. Now, when you go into the casino, are you strictly a poker player, or do you play craps? Do you do other things, or are you just, I'm going in there and I'm going to win in poker? And
I only play poker. Poker because those big, beautiful casinos were not built with the money of winners. The casinos make a lot of money, and they always have the advantage. It might be a slight advantage, like the casino might only have a 54% advantage, but that 4% is enough to make them a lot of money. And I would rather play poker where I just have to be better than the other poker players. I have to beat them and not the house.
That is,
So
yeah. So blackjack's not your thing either, then.
no, because there's too much. Well, poker does have a lot of luck involved, but there's completely, to me, a lot of those games are just completely luck. You might as well just roll dice and flip coins.
Roulette is the worst odds, I feel like. There's so many people that play roulette, and I've played it my fair share, but you lose so much money in roulette.
I've never played roulette.
It's so dumb. It's a dumb. You're just like, I bet I'm going to put $30 on 7 and hope that it hits 7. And if it hits 7, you get a bunch of money back. Or if you don't, you lose your money just like that. It's pretty.
In fact, the casino I was in, because they comp the hotel for me, and they give me a card that's good for $50 in their slot machines. I don't even use the card. I don't even go to those.
Yeah, slots are stupid too. You lose a lot of money there. You're right. Yeah. They're built on losers, not winners. Now, what got you wanting to be on Netflix's reality show, $1 Million Secret? Because you're a gambler. Was it just like I got a chance to win a meal, or what was it?
Well, I haven't been retired that long, and it actually popped up on my Instagram feed. It popped up and said, apply for a competition for $1 million. And I said, oh, that looks interesting. And I hit the autofill button, and I got an email and then an application form, and it all looked legit. It could have been a scam, but it all looked legit. Got a phone call, and then another phone call, and then it went to Zoom meetings, and I figured out it was very legit. Had to go through a psychological evaluation, which the bar set pretty low on that, I think, for reality shows. But I had to, background check and criminal check and all that kind of stuff. But I was actually on a game show back in the 80s.
Which one?
I was on Super Password.
Super Password. What was that like? Because I like 80s game shows. I like Pressure Luck. I like $25,000 Pyramid.
Well, back in those days, we had VCR, so you couldn't, it wasn't automatic feed whenever you wanted or anything. And I was working for an airline. Was fairly, new out of college and working for an airline. And so I could fly free, and all the shows were filmed in California. So I would record. I had bought a house that was a fixer-upper, and I wanted money to fix it up. And I said, I'm going to go be on a game show and win $10,000 and do some of these things I want to do on the house. And I knew I could fly out there free. So I flew out, tried out, because they would say at the end of the show, if you're interested in being on our show, call this 800 number. And I did. Flew out there and tried out and got selected to come back. And it's a long story. I don't want to bore you with the whole story.
Oh, you're not boring me. It's fascinating. I like the fact that you're like, I like that you're going, I want to fix my house, so I'm going to go be on a game show.
Yeah, I'm going to go win $10,000.
Oh my gosh.
I could win it faster. I figured I could win it faster than I could earn it. And I wasn't smart enough to do Jeopardy. And I didn't want to be on Wheel of Fortune because at that time you didn't win cash, you won stuff. And I didn't want to win some dinette set or something. I wanted to win money. And so I actually, when I flew out there, they had about 60 people in the rooms in a big circle around, all in chairs. And these were all Californians because they would advertise in the paper for people to come apply for the shows. And they said, keep that smile on your face. Personality is 50% of it. And I smiled like an idiot for the whole time. And they went around the room and would have people give each other clues. And I was kind of like, good answer, being all perky and just what they wanted. And at the end, they said, okay, Lydia and, Beth or whatever, we have a question for you too on the little index card you all filled out. The rest of you can go. We'll let you know. And when everybody left, they said, okay, you're the two we picked. So wow. I think that's kind of typical. And they said, okay, they usually film on those game shows. They film a whole week's worth in one day. So you pretend like it's Monday, then you run back, change clothes, come back, pretend like it's Tuesday. And there's like 15 minutes between each one, and they keep the same studio audience. And for this one, half the studio audience was contestants waiting to get on the show. So they filmed 3 days in a row, which would be 3 weeks worth of shows for them. So the first day I sat there the whole time, didn't get picked. So it was discouraging. trip back to the hotel because I was like, oh God, I told everybody that I'm going to go be on this game show and win $10,000. I told everybody I knew, and I didn't get picked. And the next day they picked me first person. And all the questions they asked, and you can watch it on YouTube, all the questions they asked me, I was like, every one of them. Got my thing. I won $12,600.
That's a lot of money
changed clothes. There was my $10,000 goal. I changed clothes, came back, pretended like it was the second day, and every question they asked, I was like, huh? I didn't get anything the second day because I had reached my goal. I had won my money. I was already spending it in my mind. But it was a great experience.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. I feel like I would get so nervous on a game show. I feel like you got the nerves. I just watched a movie called Luckiest Man in America. Have you seen this movie?
No, I don't think I have.
You should watch. It's pretty good. It's about the true story about the guy that learned how to beat pressure luck. He learned the program to know where he would never land on a whammy. It's a pretty fascinating movie. But so that catapulted you into being interested into $1 Million Secret, which I'm with you. I would have thought it was a scam. Like I'd be like, okay, hold on. This is ran by a guy in a van, and he's just trying to. Yeah. So you go through the psychological there, and then you get sent. Where did it film at?
It was in Canada. It was about 3 hours north of Vancouver in Okanaga.
Wow, so, I was trying to figure that out watching it. I really enjoyed the show. One, you had it out for Harry, the first episode. I'm pretty sure you were.
It was going to be me or him.
Yeah, it was going to be you or him. You were like, Harry's got to go. Yeah. But I feel like the one flaw in this show, and I watched it with my 12-year-old because we would watch it when it would drop on Wednesdays. The one flaw is I wish they hadn't have told anyone that the millionaire had a challenge that day. I feel like that made it. You've got to watch for these weird quirks. Am I right? Do you think so? Like, I feel like it would have been more entertaining had you been the millionaire that with the $1 million and you had challenges, but they didn't know the challenges and you just had to complete them. I feel like that puts you at a disadvantage if you were the millionaire. You were at an extreme disadvantage to the other 8 or 9 contestants. Don't you? What do you think? What was your thoughts on that? Were you thinking that, or were you like, oh, this is pretty cool?
Yeah, well, going into the show, I thought it was going to be like an escape room. So I thought the clues to the secret millionaire might be in patterns or hidden somewhere, or, title of a book on the shelf. Or I thought clues would be more like an escape room. And also when I first tried out for it, they said it's going to be sort of like the Clue board game. I'm thinking, oh, Colonel Mustard with a candlestick. No problem. I can do that. So this was way different than any of us thought. And yeah, for the secret millionaire to have those challenges, it did make it harder for them to stay hidden. But I think they had to do something because they had to give us clues somehow. Yet those agendas giving them extra power, we didn't know that the secret millionaire would have extra power, like votes, get rid of somebody, cancel somebody's vote out, those sort of things. We didn't know what they meant by extra power. So,
yeah, it's kind of like Traders, right? I would put it in the vein of Traders, but on Traders, you're just watching people and how they handle it. And I did think the first millionaire on your show, what was her name?
Lauren.
Yeah. I feel like she handled it poorly. I don't feel like she was, my wife was like, she really liked her. And then when she started like explaining things and acting like the pro, once she came out of the closet and was like, I was the millionaire, I feel like that ruined her. I feel like she should have not coached. I was like, stop coaching. Is that a wrong assumption, or were you like, yeah, she should coach?
I wouldn't have told everybody.
Yeah.
I thought she did a great job doing her challenges.
She did.
She did a great job with that. And I think that after she knew the money was going to pass to somebody else, and we also didn't know that was going to be an option, we thought that you kept the money until you got voted out. You know, that originally was the thought process. And when she told everybody, I think it was just an emotional moment for her, that she was so relieved that the money was going to be passing, and she kept everything so secret and hadn't been able to let on to anybody. I think she just wanted to let it all out. And her big mistake was in not coming completely clean and saying, well, I want to keep a little bit to myself. And I can understand that maybe she let it all out and then went, whoops, you know. But it's easy for me to say, it's hindsight. You know, I wasn't in her shoes. But I know I wouldn't have told anybody.
I took it to my grave.
I've been in that position.
What was the young lady's name on there? I'm trying to remember. You liked her, that everybody didn't like. They were thinking she's shady. What was her? The young one, not Kara.
Sam or Say Young?
No, the one that was talking to the dude that was all into her.
Well, there was Sydney.
Sydney.
Beautiful
You liked
blonde,
Sydney,
yeah.
right? You were on Sydney's side. Am I right? Am I remember right?
No, I wasn't. I was.
You were not on Sydney's side. Who was on
No.
Sydney's side? I feel like everybody wanted Sydney gone. They're like, we got to get rid of Sydney, and she was never a threat.
She originally, you know, she targeted to align with the guys, which, you know, she was using all her assets, and the guys were falling for it. And she and Jamie were pretty tight. And one of the things, there's some things you don't see on the show, but the first day, we all, you know, met, and then everybody kind of went in little, you know, areas to sit down and mingle and, you know, look around the place. And I noticed nobody was really approaching me. And if I kind of went up, they were kind of, you know, just talking to each other. And I felt within the first hour that nobody was bonding with me. I mean, these were all young, beautiful people, and which I figured they were, because I binge watched a bunch of reality shows beforehand, figuring out what the dynamic would probably be. And I was the old lady. So I know I needed to get some people to start aligning with me, make some friends. And because in the beginning, there's nothing to go by to vote somebody out. So I thought I need to start bonding with some of these folks. So I walked up to a table that had 3 people. And I said, do you mind if I sit with you? And they said, no, sure, go right ahead. And I said, obviously, I wasn't invited to the cool kid table over there. Mm-hmm. And it just happened to be sitting over there was Sydney, Jamie, Chris, and Corey. If it'd been 4 other people, I would have done that. But anyway, I just said, obviously, I wasn't invited to the cool kid table, which feeds on people's insecurities from childhood. And it kind of says, neither were you. So we sat down and started talking. And then a little while later, I said, well, those 4 are obviously already in an alliance here on the first day, which also implies, and you're not in it. And it worked because I wanted to create a common enemy so that they would bond with me, and they did. So they formed an alliance with me.
I was sad when you had to leave. I was frustrated because I'm with you. I feel like reality shows, any of them these days, it is so hard for people our age on there. I mean, it is a 20-something game.
It's and 20s and 30s, yeah.
Those 20s and 30s look at you and me and guys like Harry. Mm-hmm. They don't cast them enough. And they look at us like we're dead meat. And they just want to get us out. And I wish like Big Brother's done it a little better in the last year or 2 where they've added a couple older gents on the show, older people. But it gets annoying watching these shows when it's all Sydney's. And you're like,
all eye candy, yeah.
It's all eye candy. And for you and me, I'd go on there. She couldn't seduce me. I'm a happily married man. Like her breasts would not entice me in the least. I'd want to win the game. So for me, there's no woman going to make me change my thoughts. But we see that all the time, right, Lydia? We see these dudes fall.
Yeah,
we see these dudes fall into the trap, and they give up the win for a chance. I don't even know. Are they still? Do they even talk? Are they even friends at this point? I don't know. Sydney and I mean, was it worth it? I'd like to say, was it worth it? You know, you got a chance for a meal. I mean, 10 people, right? 1 in 10 chance of winning $1 million. I don't know. It's crazy to me. They need to put you on more reality shows. I'm Team Lydia. We need to see you more. And
Well, most of the reality shows, there aren't people over 45. Everybody is under 40. So, and when I was preparing for the show, when it looked like I was going to get cast on it, I started binge watching all the shows where they vote people off. So I could see about strategies and things like that. And I thought, okay, the dynamic of what kind of people get on these shows, I'm obviously an outlier. I am not part of that regular dynamic. So I'm going to be an outsider going in. Not going to be somebody that you would naturally bond with if you're in your 20s and 30s. I don't speak the lingo, it's just, I can understand that. And I read books, getting ready for the show, on reading body language, because I was like, well, at the poker table, I know what to look for, but what about away from the poker table? Reading body language, negotiation, manipulation, how to influence people. And so I was kind of like, all right, these are some of the things I need to do, and pick up on the dynamics of, if I'm not in the circle with people, how I don't become the odd man out and go home right away. Because I actually got votes on the first night.
well, I mean, that's because they're like, let's get rid of the old people, right? I mean, that's
who you're not bonding with. Yeah.
I'm a 20-something. That's why I'm always amazed at these 50-year-olds or mid-40s dating these young 20-year-olds like Bill Belichick and his 23, 24-year-old girl. I'm like, what do they have in common? Like, for me, other than the looks, I would have nothing in common with these people. I'm in a different life stage. It's so weird to me, but they do want to get rid of the old people. Now, I want to ask you, because I learned from Rachel Riley on Traitors. I was shocked to learn this. Do you stay at that mansion, or are you staying there? Because on Traitors, they do not stay at the castle. They stay in a hotel every night.
Right. No, we did stay there, which I didn't know if we'd be staying there either. I thought we might be at the Holiday Inn down the street or something. But no, we stayed there, and I had my own room, my own bathroom. It was very nice. And looking over the lake with a view of the lake, we could not leave our rooms without an escort, without a handler, a cast care person. So we couldn't leave our rooms when we were in there, and we couldn't talk to each other unless the cameras were rolling. So it wasn't like Big Brother or something where there's hidden cameras everywhere, or there's cameras in every room. So unless the cameras were rolling, we could not talk. So we might go into breakfast or into a room or something, and we just have to sit there, and you could look at each other and kind of go like, but no talking, because you were also mic'd from the time you left your room in the morning until you went back to your room at night. So They were hearing everything you did and said, you washing your hands when you went to the bathroom, everything.
Wait, they hear bathroom visits too? Oh my gosh, man. I'd hate to have diarrhea on this show. That'd be
so everything. Yeah, no talking unless the cameras were rolling. So they call it being on ice. So you're on ice, no talking or anything. And then they would say like, okay, cameras are rolling. And then you could start talking. And by then you were like, okay, now we got to talk. We got to talk, because we didn't know how much time we were going to have. Because then they were going to take us off to a challenge or something, or we needed to go do you in the interview room. We need you for this or that, or, whatever. So you wanted to talk and get your conversation in while you could. And sometimes cameras would start rolling, and the person you really want to talk to is at the other end of the table or in the other room. You don't want to be rude to who you're talking to, but you want to go, excuse me, I need to go in there while I got a chance.
Oh, wow. So I always like to ask this question too. What was the food like? Because I want to know, is the food good or is it passable?
It was great. It was fantastic. Now, I know most shows, they're eating, hot dogs or something, but this food was fantastic. They had the chef that came with the chateau, and anything you wanted, they would take care of. If you said, I want a claw, peach, whatever, and they didn't have it, it would be there in a couple hours. I had this chai tea that they made me and after the first day, they were like, here's your chai tea with your pack of stevia. And in the evening, the first night, after Harry went home, we were all getting ready to, I think we had dessert or something waiting for us in the kitchen and getting ready to go to our rooms. And they asked me, one of the staff said, would you like a nightcap or a cocktail, take to your room? And I said, well, sure. Do you have some sort of liqueur like Frangelico or Amaretto or something? And she said, let me get the key to the locked liquor cabinet. And so we walked over there and she opened it up. She looked around and she said, oh, here's one. This is a Canadian liqueur. You'll probably like it. And she starts pouring it. And she said, they don't make it anymore. And I took a sip. I said, oh, yeah, it's delicious. Tastes great. And she said, it's $4,000 a bottle. I said, wait till Netflix gets the bar bill on this place because I'm going to have a glass every night.
4,000. Oh, my gosh. That's amazing.
And there was, they didn't say no. They didn't say no to anything. The staff there, the chef, everything, whatever you wanted, they took care of us.
So Kara wins it. And I was happy she won it. I thought she was probably the sweetest one outside of you sweet, on the show. She deserved it. Does she go back to In-N-Out or did she put her notice in? I'm wondering this because
she at first went back to In-N-Out, and but now she's not working there anymore. But she had to kind of I don't think she even told him she went on the show. I think she just took a leave or something. But she was really flipping burgers, and she went back to doing it. But I don't think she's doing it anymore. I wouldn't be if I'd want to.
No. How many days did y'all film? How many days was total filming on this?
It was about 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Okay, that's not too bad. That's almost a month of being. And when you left, when you get voted out, do you get to say goodbye, or do you walk out and you really are gone?
You're really gone. I walked out, went into the interview room, and then walked up the steps, got in the car. You had to pack your bags every night before elimination dinner. So that was kind of a hassle, constantly having your suitcase, in and out. But I had somewhat packed my bags, and they packed all my stuff. And I even had my own little alarm clock. And they didn't forget anything. They packed everything up and then took me to the hotel where I then flew out the next morning.
Wow. So it's quick. It's now you were on a Netflix reality show, and Netflix, I feel like once you're in a Netflix one, they could use you again. I want to see them come back to you because Netflix has its own reality world in my mind. Like, you see the Love is Blind people, all this stuff, they get shuffled around, which I like The Ultimatum better than Love Is. Do you watch Love is Blind? Are you a Love is Blind person? Yeah. The Ultimatum is stupid.
They don't let people off on that one, do they?
No. Well, no. But on The Ultimatum, Lydia, you're happily married. I'm happily married.
Yeah.
If I was struggling with my beautiful wife, I would not say let's go on The Ultimatum because I feel like Ultimatum, basically the gist of the show is if it'd be like me and you spending a week together and your husband spending a week with my wife. Yeah. And we see if we want our wife back and our husband back. I feel like that's a dumb mentality, but it's so funny to watch these people because they're like, well, I guess my wife really doesn't love me or my fiance because now they're leaving me for this new man. I'm like, I told my wife you would find somebody so much better looking than me, and they would put you in. She's like, no, I wouldn't.
I don't want to take a risk with that show.
I'm not tempting fate. I'm not, but. What I'm getting at is you're in the hopper now, so I expect to see you on another reality show.
Maybe, I'm not sure because I think Netflix embraces some of their shows more than others. I don't know. I heard from the Netflix PR people right before the show started dropping, and haven't heard anything since. So we'll see. I don't know. I am under contract with Netflix for 1 year until next March. So if I go on another show that's not Netflix, I have to get their permission. Oh. But I can do another Netflix show, but I haven't been approached for anything. And I do keep in touch with a lot of the other cast members. So most of the cast members I've kept in touch with.
Even Harry.
They haven't had anything either.
Are they bringing this show back? Are they going to do a season? They're going to do a season 2.
They are going to do a season 2. They have signed up for a second season. And I bet they'll make some different, tweak it somehow. I bet it will have its own little tweaks. The same premises. If somebody starts with the $1 million, but I bet they'll maybe make little changes. I think one of the things that was suggested by some of my fellow cast members that I think they may embrace, I don't know, is to give incentives for voting out the millionaire. Because there were times when we, in the very first, I think after Harry went home, we said, well, what's incentive do we have to vote out the millionaire? If we figure out who it is, let's just keep them. And then the money won't go to somebody else and we won't have to start over. That was before we knew the millionaire would have extra power. So we said, oh, well, we just figure out who it is and keep them around. And at one point when we figured out Phil was the millionaire, I tried to convince everybody to keep Phil because I said we could keep him from getting any more power, any advantages, because we all know it's him. We'll just keep an eye on him. Don't let him complete any of his, challenges. And the money won't go to somebody else, won't go to one of us. And I'm talking to my alliance at that point, and said, let's just keep him and get rid of Sydney because she's not in our alliance. And she's a strong player and she's gunning for me.
Well, she was gunning for you.
So I tried to convince them to do that, but it didn't work.
It's hard to talk people into something when they're dead set on something.
At that point, we had not voted out a millionaire yet, and I think some egos said, "I want to get a millionaire," And also, Peter would say, "Who do you think is the millionaire? You're here to vote out the millionaire." I mean, he really, let us know that's your task. And I thought, well, your job is for us to vote out the millionaire. My job is to stay here as long as I can and win $1 million,
The incentive part does sound good. I was thinking in my head while you were pitching that. It might have been even better if the millionaire has the million, and if the group votes the millionaire out, the group gets 50,000 or 100,000 of that million, and now you're down. Now the next guy's only got $900,000. Mm-hmm. And if the house can win it, or does the millionaire win it at the end? Like, what do you walk away with? That would be more entertaining, I think, because then you have incentive to vote them out, to vote Phil out. You're like, I'm going to make 100,000 and we're going to split this 7 ways.
Right.
Or 8 ways.
So that would have been, it would have been a good incentive. And for the millionaire, I don't know if Lauren, they gave her a punishment, so to speak, that if she didn't complete her task, then she had something negative happen. I don't remember if that was the case with her, but it was with the rest of them after that.
Oh,
so, they'd have to give the millionaire an incentive to want to do those, because they were kind of risky. If you got caught, you're cooked. So you've got to have enough of an incentive to want to complete those tasks.
Some of them were way easier than others. Was it Lauren who had like a high five? Who had the high five? Like, wasn't it a high five one?
No, there wasn't one. That was one I made up that I said Harry was trying to get everybody to touch hands.
Oh, yeah. I'm getting confused. That is funny.
I actually, in the beginning, when I realized that, I needed to make some moves, and Harry is very outgoing and gregarious and talkative. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, okay, it's going to be Harry or me that they're going to get rid of. I can just see how people are grouping together. And so I mentioned something to, I put the bug in Lauren's ear and I think I said something to Chris, something to Say Young. I didn't want it to come back on me. But one of the things was I said, Harry lives, he described the place he lived in Maui. I said, and he's an underwater photographer. How can he afford a place like that and on a photographer salary? And, his accent seems a little bit East Coast to me. So I was just but maybe it's just me. I was trying to put the bug in ears to target Harry. And the hand thing, that the one where he put his hand in and he said, let's all put our hands in before the challenge and say yay. That happened. The timing on that was different in what you see in the end. So I was kind of like, okay, Harry keeps wanting to touch hands with people. And Harry's just a touchy-feely guy. But I was making that suspicious. And everybody was like, oh, they wouldn't pray with Harry. Oh, that's terrible. I've had some negative comments to me about, how could you do that? And even people have said, what an unchristian thing to do. Harry's Jewish. give me a break. I wasn't being anti anything. I was being suspicious of,
It's a game. You want to win.
What?
It's a game. You want to win it.
Yeah.
So at any cost,
Mhm.
hugging it was hugging, right? That's what
That
it
was
was.
Lauren's task, was to hug everybody. Yes.
And that's when you're like, Harry's doing the thing, but
Mhm.
she's going around hugging people, which,
Well, see, I wasn't in the room, and I didn't see her hug all those people because she did it at
yeah,
different times in different places. So when she sat down and just kind of put her arm around me and gave me a hug, I didn't think anything of it. I was aligned with Lauren, so I wasn't. If it was somebody that I was aligned with, then I was okay at that point.
the one that was funny was the song titles. Gotta have the song.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have gave it away. I feel like that the song titles was hard. That was a hard
that
one.
would have been hard. And I got to tell you, I thought the very hardest one were the ones Sam had. She had to get people to say Justin Timberlake. I mean,
Yeah, she kept going.
everybody was saying Phil had such a hard one. Imagine if Phil had to get 3 people to say Justin Timberlake. I mean, that would have been hard for anybody. And she pulled off some really good ones.
Yeah.
Do you hear that ring? Do you hear that ringing? I mean, how do you get somebody to say yes to that? And when there is no ringing, those were hard.
Yeah, harder than hugging, because I'm a hugger. So I would come on and I could hug you and I'd be like, "Hey, how's your week been?" They just think I'm a touchy feely guy like Harry. But the Justin Timberlake. I don't know enough of his music, so I would be really.
She couldn't say a song title.
She couldn't say a song.
Say lyrics. There was something about it. I would have had to say, well, who was that boy band guy married to that Britney girl? But how do you just bring that up in conversation? I know Justin Timberlake's a golfer and Chris is a golfer. And I probably would have come into some sort of conversation about golf and celebrity golfers or something. It just would have been hard.
I just thought about it, Lydia. If it was you, if I was there, I would go, who is that guy married to Britney? Britney, what's her name? Britney Spears. And they would say, oh, it's Justin Timberlake. Okay, well, who's the guy married to Jessica Biel then? Oh, it's Justin Timberlake too. Boom, there's 2 JTs right there in a...
They might get suspicious. Why is he asking about, but who would have thought that would have been a clue either? So
yeah, I know. You could have been like, Britney Spears is crazy now. Who was her husband back in the day when she wasn't that crazy? Then you're like, oh... I don't know. But hey, Lydia, I thank you for spending some time with me. This has been amazing. You're such a great guest. You're always welcome to come back. Next time you're on a Netflix show, I want you to come back on. Or when you win a big poker tournament. When you win the World Series of Poker, I want you to come back on. We're going to talk about it.
I've had a lot of people asking about that because there is a website that tracks poker players' earnings, but it doesn't track all of them. You have to be playing in casinos and it doesn't track the card houses. It doesn't track a lot of that. And they've said, well, how much money are you making playing poker? And I tell them, I don't ask you how much money you make. If you win less than $10,000, you get $100 bills. If you win more than $10,000, they issue a 1099 and it's reported to the IRS.
Oh.
So there's a big difference, but I don't think it's wise of anybody to talk about how much money they win playing poker.
Well, yeah, because that should put a target on you. Because when I see you come to the table, I'm like, this lady's won $300,000 this year. She's gonna take me to the woodshed today. That's what I would think.
Yeah,
so I'm just
I'm just a sweet grandma at the poker table.
I love it. Well, thank you, Lydia. Again, I'll be following your career, and I'm so glad you joined me. Thank you so much. You have a great day, Lydia. Talk to you later. Bye now.